We continue now at the top of Daf Yud Zayin Amud Beis in Meseches Moed Kattan. This is Moed Kattan Daf 17b. On the previous summer, there was a Talmud Chacham who was being bothered by an alme, by a strong individual. And so he went to Rav Yosef for advice, and Rav Yosef says you should ostracize the individual, and the way you should do it is you should write down the nidoi, and you should place the nidoi into a jug. And the Gemara continues the advice, va'achsi be kivrei, and you should put it in an area where there aren't that many people, by a cemetery. V'kari be alpha shipure barboy minyomin, and you should blow 1,000 shofar blasts over a period of 40 days. So Azal Avid Hachi, so the Talmud Chacham did exactly this. Paka Chada, and then the jug, it split open. Umis Alman, the strong individual, this violent individual, he died. And the Gemara says, Mai Shipure, what's the reference over here to blowing shofar? Shenifroin Mimeno, means to say that he's going to be paid back for the bad that he's doing. Shipure, from the word Shenifroin. My Tavrin, what's the idea of Tavro? Rashi over here says, My Tavri, Lama Token Tekiya Ushvarim. Why are they blowing both Tekiya, the regular long blast, and the Shvarim, which is the broken blasts? And to that the Gemara says, Amar Rav Yitzchak Breder Rav Yehuda. Rav Yitzchak Breder Rav Yehuda says, Tavre Bate Rami. It means to say that you should break the high houses, meaning even the important people, it's able to break them, it's able to punish them. The Tanyas were learned in a brayso. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, Kol makam shenasnu chachamim eineim. Anywhere where the chachamim place their eyes, o misa o oni. Either there's going to be death or there's going to be poverty. This is a way the chachamim can punish those individuals who deserve it. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, V'hanazir v'hamitzora mitumaso l'ta'araso. Let's say you have a nazir or a mitzora and they're purifying, they're in the process of purification, and now it's the regel and they need to shave. That's part of the process, so they're allowed to shave on Chol Moed. So the Gemara says, Boy minei Rabbi Yirmiyah mi Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Yirmiyah asked Rabbi Zera the following question. What exactly is the case over here? By the Nazir and the Mitzorah in the process of purification, was there time available before the regel where they were able to shave and they just did not do so? Or are we talking specifically in a case where there was no time available, this is the only time available, they couldn't do it before the regel, they have to do it on Chol Moed? Rashi over here says, does it have to be that they're being purified on the regel? And that's the only reason they're allowed to shave. They couldn't shave before because they hadn't yet reached the point in time where they were beginning that purification process where they can shave. Maybe even if they had some time before the regel, and they didn't do so, maybe for a mitzora and maybe for a nazir who's in the middle of the purification process, even if they had time before the regel, they're going to be allowed to shave in order to purify themselves. So Amar Lei, so he said to him, Tanino, we learned the answer to this question. It says, Kol elu sha'amru mutarin legalech b'moed. It says all of these cases where a person is allowed to shave on the moed, b'shalo hayolem penai. It's talking when there wasn't enough time. Aval hayolem penai asurim. But if they had time before the moed, then all of these leniencies in the Mishnah don't apply. They're not allowed to shave on Chol Moed in such a case. However, Nazir or Mitzora, it's an exception by a Nazir and a Mitzora, even though they did have time before the Moed to shave, Mutarim, they still allowed to shave on Chol Moed, Shalo Yishu Karbanosayim. We don't want them to delay bringing their Karbanos. Rashi over here says, Shalo Yishu Karbanosayim B'tiglechason ad la'achar regel. If they're going to have to delay shaving, then they're going to have to delay the whole process till after the regel. The Nazir and Mitzora ain't mevian Karbanosayim ad la'achar giluach. A Nazir and a Mitzora that are purifying themselves, they only bring their carbon after they shave. Like the Psukim say, Hilkach lo kansinan lahu b'delo avdi mekame regel dezimnan delo avid kame regel u'mi'asri lo b'moed nimsa shemashana karbonos. So in their particular case, we don't want them to delay. We'd rather, even if they could have done it before the regel, but if they did not do so, they should shave on the regel so they could bring their carbon. Ve'einon kraven b'yom hashmini b'zmanan lefikach amru megalech b'moed demutav l'karev zman hakrav v'lo achar. It's better to make it earlier, not to delay it. Better to bring the carbon as soon as possible. And the Gemara continues, Tana was taught, HaKohen v'ha'ovel, when it comes to a Kohen and an Ovel, Mutarin b'giluach, they're allowed to shave on Chol Moed. So the Gemara is going to want to clarify what exactly are we talking about over here. So, Hai Ovel Hechidami, what's the case of the mourner that's allowed to shave on Chol Moed? So the Gemara says, Ileima shachol shmini shalo be'erev haregel. If you're going to say that the case over here is that his 8th day of mourning, meaning he was mourning the 7 days of Shiva, and then an additional day, the 8th day fell out on Erev Yontif. So iboy le galuche be'erev haregel. In that situation, if it's already the 8th day on Erev Yontif, he should have shaved Erev haregel, and then he has no excuse why he should be able to shave on Chol HaMoed. Rashi over here says iboy le galuche erev haregel ditnan masnisin, because we learned in the Mishnah hakover meso shmona yomim kodem haregel. It says this exact case: somebody buries his dead relative 8 days before the holiday. The halacha is, so he sits the full Shiva, but then that next day, that 8th day, is the beginning of when he's sitting the Shloshim, and the rest of it becomes cancelled out, since the Shloshim, that 8th day, runs right into Yontif. Yontif stops the Shloshim, and he's actually allowed to shave on that day, because he began that day 1 of the Shloshim. This guy who did not shave Erev Haregel should not be allowed to shave on the regel. So it cannot be that the case of the Ovel is that the 8th day fell out on the Erev Haregel, because in that case he certainly would have been allowed and should have shaved Erev Haregel, and therefore he'd have no permission to shave and get a haircut on Chol HaMoed. Ella rather shechol shmini shelo lios b'Shabbos Erev Haregel. So the Gemara tries another approach. The case is that the 8th day did fall out on Erev Haregel, but that day happened to be Shabbos. Can't shave on Shabbos. But the Gemara says no, iboy le galucha Erev Shabbos. On that case, there's still permission, even though it's only day 7. But if the 8th day falls out on Shabbos Erev Haregel, everybody agrees that you're allowed to shave on Erev Shabbos, even though it's day 7. Rashi over here says, b'Shabbos Erev Haregel v'have onus de lo motzi legalech b'shmini. You'll say, oh, it's an onus. He can't shave on day 8 Erev Haregel because it's Shabbos on Erev Haregel. Lachi megalech b'regel. So therefore, maybe then he has permission to shave on Chol HaMoed. Iboy le legluch Erev Shabbos shu shvi. The Gemara says, no, it's not true. Everyone agrees in that case. You are allowed to shave the day before Erev Haregel, meaning Erev Shabbos, which is the 7th day. Everybody agrees to that, and the Gemara will now explain that. The Amar Rav Chisda, Amar Ravina Bar Shila, because Rav Chisda said in the name of Ravina Bar Shila, halacha ka'abashol. The halacha is like Abashol. We'll see that in a moment. Umodim chachamim la'abashol, but the chachamim agree to Abashol. B'shachol shmini shalo lios b'Shabbos. If the 8th day of mourning falls out on Shabbos, Erev Haregel, and that day also happens to be Erev Yontiv, shemuter legalech b'Erev Shabbos. Everybody agrees in that case you're allowed to shave on Erev Shabbos. So again, in that case, you would not be allowed to shave on Chol HaMoed. Rashi over here explains, halacha ka'abashol da'afilu lo kavar ela shiva yomim kodem haregel batlu mimenu gezer shloshim. We're going to see that Abashol holds that even if the 7th day, let's say the mace was buried 7 days before the regel, so the 7th day falls out on Erev Haregel, Abashol happens to say that even in that case, the Shloshim is batel, and you can shave already Erev Haregel on day 7 in that situation. The Chachamim disagree, but the Chachamim agree that you can shave on day 7 if day 8 was Erev, if day 8, which was Erev Haregel, was also Shabbos. Umodim Chachamim la'Abashol, that's what they say, the Chachamim agree. Afagav debo shmona, even though normally they say you need to have 8 days in order for the Shloshim to be batel, but b'shechol shmini lios b'Shabbos Erev Haregel, in a situation where the 8th day falls out on Shabbos, which is Erev Yontiv, to have honest, there already it's an onus. You can't shave on the 8th day because it's Shabbos. Shemuter legalech b'Erev Shabbos shushvi. Even the Chachamim agree to the leniency that you can, in that particular case, you can shave on day 7. So in any case, the point is that can't be the case either. We can't be talking about an ovel where day 8 falls out on Shabbos Erev Haregel, because there was an opportunity to shave before the regel. So finally, the Gemara says, lo tzricha, no, it's needed. Shechol shvi shalo lios b'Shabbos Erev Haregel. The case over here actually is where the 7th day fell out on Shabbos Erev Haregel. So that's the situation in this particular case, and that's where it was impossible for the person to shave before the regel, so he's allowed to shave on Chol HaMoed. And the Gemara now explains. Tana Bara, the Tana of the outer Tana, so to speak, the Tana of the Brisa, Savar lo Abashol, holds like Abashol. The Amar Mixas Hayom Kekulo. Abashol holds, this is the same Abashol we mentioned before. Abashol says that part of the day is considered like the whole day. V'yom shvi ola lo lekanu lekan, and therefore day 7 actually counts as both days, meaning day 7 counts as the end of the Shiva and the beginning of the Shloshim. V'kevan the Shabbos have it, and now since that day, this 7th day happens to be be Shabbos. So onesu, it's considered that he's an ones, and he's able to shave the day before. But Tana didon savar like Rabbanan. But our Tana holds like the Rabbanan. The Amri lo amrina mixas hayom kekulo. They say we do not say mixas hayom kekulo. V'akati lo shalom avelus to Shiva. So the avelus of Shiva is not yet over. Rashi over here explains, Hai Tana de Braisa de Tani Ovel Megalech B'Moed. The Tana de Braisa, that's the Braisa that we just learned over here, where it says Tana HaKohen Ve'Ovel Mutar Begiluach. So that Braisa, which says an Ovel can shave on Chol Moed, Savar Ka Abashol, holds like Abashol. The Yom Shvi Ola Lekan Lekan holds that the 7th day really counts as both. L'shiva u'l'shloshim. That's Abashol's leniency, that the 7th day counts as the beginning of shloshim as well. V'kevan dechvar hischilu shloshim. And so therefore, since the shloshim already began, iboyle legaluche kodem haregel, he should have shaved before the regel. Really, he had an opportunity to shave, in theory, before the regel. Elo de Shabbos have it, but it was Shabbos and he couldn't do it. V'onesu is an onus. L'achim megalech b'moed. So since he's in an onus situation where it was the time to shave, but he could not shave, so therefore he's allowed to shave on Chol Moed. Now, our Tan of our Mishnah says the following people can shave on the regel, gives a whole list, doesn't say anything about an ovel. So what does our Tana hold? Holds like the Rabbanan that we don't say mixas hayom kekulo. Elo shiva shleimin bo'inan. You need to have shiva for 7 full days. So if that's the case, on the 7th day there is no beginning of shloshim. V'akati lo sholem avelus to shiva kodem haregel. So now this erev haregel, which is day 7, which also happens to be Shabbos, the shiva is not over. You have to finish the entire day to finish the shiva. Therefore, you haven't even entered shloshim. It's not considered an onus because Shabbos prevented you, because on the contrary, even if it wasn't Shabbos, you're not allowed to shave on the 7th day. And for that reason, you're not allowed to shave on the moed over here, because really in this particular situation, it's not like there was an opportunity to shave before the moed in theory, and then you couldn't do it because it was Shabbos. Here, you really were still completing the shiva. There was no opportunity whatsoever, and therefore the shloshim never started, and so in such a case, you're not going to be allowed to shave on Chol Moed either, because really you're still in the middle of the shloshim. The Gemara continues, Hai Kohen Hechidami, this Kohen in this Brisa where we said the Kohen is allowed to shave on Chol Moed. What's the case over there? Ilema de Shalom Mishmarto Erev Haregel, if the case is that his particular shift in the Beis HaMikdash ended on Erev Haregel, and Rashi over here says, the Shalom Mishmarto Erev Haregel B'Shabbos. It ended Erev Haregel and it was Shabbos. The Liolam Lo Shalma Mishmara El B'Shabbos, because it happens to be Mishmars always end on Shabbos because it's a weekly thing. So if that's the case, that the Mishmar ended Erev Haregel, Iboyle Legaluche Erev Haregel, so he should have shaved Erev Haregel. Rashi over here says, Iboyle Legaluche Erev Haregel, Klomar Be'erev Shabbos, meaning on Erev Shabbos, Shehu Erev Haregel, that ends up being Erev Haregel, to Amrinan Anshe Mishmar Asurin Begiluach Uvechamishi Mutarin V'nei Kvod HaShabbos. The halach is that the Anshe Mishmar are generally not allowed to shave, but if it's Thursday already and you're doing it for the honor of Shabbos, then it's okay. So in this particular case, again, if the Mishmar ended on Shabbos, Erev HaRegel, so before that, you should have shaved, because you're allowed to shave in the honor of Shabbos anyway, so you should have shaved before the regel. Over here, again, Erev HaRegel doesn't literally mean Erev HaRegel, it just means before the regel. That's what he should have done. So therefore, there's not going to be any permission in that case to shave on Shabbos. So the Gemara says, Lo no tzrich, it's needed to shalom ishmarto beregel. The case actually is where the mishmar ends on the regel itself. Rashi over here says, the shalom mishmar beregel kigon dav yom chamisha yom rishon shel regel. Simple case, Thursday falls out on the first day of Yontif. The lo motzi legalech, in that case he couldn't shave to have a Yontif because it's Yontif. V'shalom mishmarto b'Shabbos, his mishmar is going to end at the end of the week on Shabbos. Sheyom shlishi l'regel, that's already the 3rd day of the regel. So that's the case over here. The mishmar, he didn't have the opportunity to do it earlier. It ended on the regel, and so therefore, what's now again the machlokus between our Tana and the Mishnah, which doesn't list Kohen, and this Tana the Brisa, which says the Kohen can shave? Tana didon savar, because our Tana holds kevon de Tanan. Since we learned in the Mishnah, b'shlosha prakim b'shana hayu kol hamishmaros shavos. There are 3 times during the year where all the mishmars are equal, meaning during the regalim, during the yamim tovim, everybody is on shift, so to speak. They're all equal be'emure haragolim in terms of eating from the limbs of the karbonos that are brought on the regalim, uvechiluk lechem aponim, and they're all equal in dividing up the lechem aponim. So therefore, essentially, even though this Kohen's individual mishmar, that's ending in the middle of the regel, but it's really running right into another mishmar, because everybody is on shift. Everybody has a mishmar on the regel. So keman de lo shalom mishmar to beregel dami. It's as if the mishmar didn't really end on the regel. The mishmar is still going, so to speak, so there's no permission to shave. The Tana Baraz Savar, but the Tana of the Brisa holds, Avagav the Shayich Bahanach Mishmaros, even though everybody is really a part of that mishmar on the regel, but mishmarte miha shlimale, but his mishmar actually is finished, and therefore since his mishmar is finished, he's going to be allowed to shave. And Rashi over here explains, Tana didon damar eino megalech b'moed artana, which says he can't shave. Savar kevan detanan b'shlosha prakam b'shlosha regalim kol mishmar shavim. Again, at the three regalim, the three yamim tovim, Pesach, and Shavuos and Sukkot, everyone's equal in the mishmar. Akati keman delo shalom mishmar to dami. He's still in the mishmar, therefore. V'adayin yesh lo chelik be'muri regalim. He still gets the limbs of the karbanos. V'lo shalom mishmar to b'chol regel. His mishmar really doesn't end the whole regel. La'achi eino megalech b'regel. Therefore, he doesn't shave on the regel. Kedetanan anshe mishmar asur legalech. That's what we say. The people who are in mishmar, who have shift, they're not allowed to shave. The other Tana, the Brisa that says they could shave, even though he's still on the shift that applies to everybody, but his main mishmar has finished. For that reason, he's going to be allowed to shave. The Gemara continues, Tanu Rabbanon, the rabbis taught, Kol elu sha'amru mutarin legaleach b'moed. All of these cases where we say that a person is allowed to shave, he has a heter to shave on Chol HaMoed, because again, he wasn't able to do it beforehand. Mutarin legaleach b'mei evil, and the same heter applies. Let's say the person is an ovel, and he has these kind of excuses, so to speak, he's going to be allowed to shave as an ovel as well. So the Gemara says, V'atanya asurim. Is that really true? But we have a brisa which says on the contrary, that even though these people are mutter during Chol HaMoed, they're actually asur during the time of Avelos. So the Gemara says, Amar Rav Chisda, Amar Rav Shila. Rav Chisda says in the name of Rav Shila, Kitanya hacham mutarin. When we say over here that all of these individuals are mutter, b'shtachfuhu avelov. We're talking about a very specific case where there's one right after the other in terms of Avelos. So the Gemara says, one second, if the case over here is where, again, there's Avelos one right after the other, what do you have to give all these cases that the person has a certain excuse, he was in jail, whatever the case may be? Even everybody should have this heter. Tanya, as we learned in a brisa, let's say a person has Avelos one right after the other, he's sitting a shiva, and now he's sitting another shiva because somebody else dies. So the halacha happens to be that if his hair is getting heavy now, he's growing out his hair for a long time because there's one Avelos right after the other, so he's able to lighten up his hair, he's able to use a razor to cut that hair, it's not going to be a problem. And he has a heter, he's allowed to launder his clothing in water, and so therefore you see that that's a heter anyway. So what are we saying over here? That in a case of tachfu avelov, in that situation, you also need some kind of an excuse, like you got out of jail or whatever, in order to shave as an avel. It's automatically you have an excuse. So the Gemara says, no, it's not exactly automatic. Ho'itmar Allah, no, it was said on this, Amar Rav Chisda, that Rav Chisda said, Betar avalo b'misparayim, this heter, that if you have tachfu avelov, and your hair is getting long, it's only true with a tar, it's only true with a razor. But for example, you won't be allowed to use a scissors. B'mayim, it's only true with water. V'lo b'neser, v'lo b'oil, but you're not allowed to use neser and oil, is like using certain kinds of soaps, detergents to help to wash yourself. That's not going to be allowed. It's not a full-fledged heter, and therefore, if you have the additional heter besides tachfu avelov, but you also have the heterim that are listed in our Mishnah, got out of jail or overseas, etc., so then you're going to have the full heter, you're able to use misparayim, neser, oil, all of that stuff is going to be allowed. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Chisda says, Zos Omeris, this whole discussion shows, Avil Asr B'tichboses, that an Avil is actually not allowed to launder clothing, because that's the whole point over here, that only in this case, where you have, let's say, Tachfu Avil of Zechar Zeh, so then you're allowed to launder the clothing, otherwise, in a stam situation, it would be Asr. The Gemara continues, Tanu Rabbanon, the rabbis taught, Kashem Sha'amru Asr Legalech B'moed, just like they said that it's Asr to shave on Chol HaMoed, Kach Asr Litol Tzipornayim B'moed, so too it's Asr for a person to cut their fingernails on Chol HaMoed. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, that's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Rabbi Yossi Mater, Rabbi Yossi says it's mutter to cut the fingernails on Chol HaMoed. Just like they say that an avel is not allowed to shave during the time of Avelos, so too not allowed to cut the fingernails by an avel during the time of Avelos. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, that's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi Mater, and again, Rabbi Yossi says it's mutter. Amar Ula says, halacha Rabbi Yehuda ba'avel. The halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, we have to be strict by the fingernails when it comes to Avelos. The halacha Rabbi Yossi b'moed, and the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi, that you can be lenient by the fingernails when it comes to Chol HaMoed. Shmuel Amar, Shmuel says, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video, on Daf Yud Ches Amud Aleph.